Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Morgan. This is my channel Pisces Paperbacks, and today I'm going to be talking about my 2020 reading resolutions and goals for the next year. Marcy's demanding attention, so just ignore that. But also, I'm wearing pajamas, also ignore that. And now let's get started. I have a list of 5 reading goals and channel goals, and then 5 specific books that I'd like to read next year. So the first one is that next year I am setting my reading goal, my Goodreads goal, at 120 books or at least 10 books per month. This year my original goal was 22 books because I hadn't read in I hadn't really read seriously in 4 years, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cute if every year it's the age that I am, so it gets harder as I get older. But I passed that goal so fast, and so I was like, okay, what if I set it to 50? And then I passed that, and then I was like, okay, what about 80? And then I was like, okay, past that. So I got to the end of the year, and I was like, what if I went crazy and tried to get to 100, and now I'm at 110? So I think 120 books next year will be reasonable. I also think specifically 10 books a month because this year I've had some crazy good reading months. For example, December, I think I'm on track to read literally 18 books this month, which is insane. But I think in June I read 3 books. And so I'd like to maybe fix that kind of disparity by setting this baseline of, hopefully, fingers crossed, around 10 books a month or more, obviously. I'm not gonna limit myself. As for my channel, I've said a couple times that I'd like to post 2 videos a week. Clearly, that has not worked out successfully for me. So I think for next year, I'm gonna set a more realistic goal. 1 video a week, but trying for 2. You know what I mean? I'll always post a video, or I'll try to always post a video on a certain day, but also try my best to have a video up on another day every week, if that makes sense. So it's just a little less pressure for myself if I, don't have any ideas, or if I'm really busy, and it just seems a little bit more realistic for me. Another thing I'd like to do is read 1 nonfiction book every month. I read 1 nonfiction book this entire year. It was Code Girls. I read it in December, which is this month, so I haven't talked about it yet on my channel. But I really, really liked it. A lot more than I was expecting to. I think I liked it because it was a very narrative book. It really told a story over the course of the entire war, so that kind of drew me in. I'd like to read 1 nonfiction book every month in 2020, just because I have a couple that I've owned for literally 5 years that I've never read. I've tried to, I started and then I stopped because I got bored, and I just like to be a little bit more diverse in the types of books that I'm reading, because I really read a lot of the genres that I love, you know what I mean? And I'd like to, and it's good to read things that you love, but it's been so long since I've been reading so much that, oh my god, maybe I need to learn a little bit more about what I like, Hi, butt. This is your butt. Oh my god. What a big stretch. Hi, baby. The next thing that I want to prioritize as a goal for next year is reading the books that I own. So this year, I read a lot of physical books that I owned and also borrowed from the school library, towards the beginning of the year. And then as we got to the second half of the year and I discovered Libby, the majority of my reading has become audiobooks that I borrowed from Libby, which is not it's not a problem. I'm not mad that I've gotten into audiobooks. Audiobooks are literally my saving grace, and I love them so much. But because it's so easy to read audiobooks and to just rent them constantly and just constantly be listening to them, I haven't read any books on my shelves. They just sit there because it takes so much more effort to sit and turn pages, and you can't play video. You can't play games on your phone while you read a book. You have to read the book. So I'd like to read more books, just physically read the books that I own, or get the audiobooks of them, but still read the ones on my shelves. You know what I mean? That's a goal that I'd really like to meet. And then this one is kind of crazy, but I'd like to make it to 100 subscribers next year, by the end of 2020. I think that'd be crazy cool, especially with this more realistic once a week posting schedule. It just feels to me like the consistency can be there to the point where I can maybe make it to 100 subscribers. Like, if I don't get there, obviously I just do this for fun. Like, I wouldn't die, but it would be like so freaking cool to get 100 subscribers by the end of the year. That would just like blow my mind. And that's like all like the goals that I have. Just some other stuff that I'm gonna hopefully be doing is I have been trying to start a book club at my work, so hopefully I'll have like a book from them every month. And I've been reading books. Like, I made a mini book club with my two of my friends, so we just finished a book together for the first time, and I'd like to be doing that every month. And me and Hannah are gonna do like a podcast, so like lots of fun things happening, and I love reading. Now I want to talk about the 5 books on my shelves that I want to read in the upcoming year. The first one I want to talk about is Scythe by Neal Schusterman. This is a book that I bought a couple years ago, like literally before I started reading again, before I discovered BookTube, before I realized that this was like a popular series. Marcy, get your nose out of there. Before I knew this was like a popular series, I bought this because I thought the cover was just like sick as hell. This is a book about a kind of sci-fi dystopian world where nobody dies, and these people, Scythes, are assigned the ability and job and responsibility of deciding who dies. And it just sounds so cool, and I want to read it, and it's just been sitting on my shelf for at least 2 years, so I'd like to read this one. Another book I'd like to read is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This was actually a Hanukkah gift from my mom, so I only just got this a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty short. It's not even 200 pages, but I do want to read this, and this isn't something that I would just pick up for myself usually. James Baldwin is a very, very well-known Black LGBTQ author who wrote during the 50s and 60s or 60s and 70s, something like that. There's actually the oldest LGBT bookshop, coffee shop in Philadelphia is called Giovanni's Room, and I've always been interested in learning a little bit more about James Baldwin. I haven't read a lot of his works, but I've read some essays that he's written. Why you gotta be so loud? She's playing with her toy. It makes this like air wheezy sound. Girl. The next book I want to read is Villette by Charlotte Bronte. I've talked about it a little bit before, but my favorite book like on this planet is Jane Eyre, and it's the only book I've ever read from Charlotte Bronte. This is another book by Charlotte Bronte about a woman who flees England and becomes an instructor at a French boarding school in the town of Villette. And there's romance and drama, and basically I'm very excited. This does make a bold claim on the back that it eclipsed even Jane Eyre in critical acclaim, and I've never even heard of this, so maybe that's just me not really knowing anything like that much about classics, but I'd like to read this one because Jane Eyre is my favorite book in the world, and this is by the same author, and it seems to be something that I would like. The next one is a large departure from Charlotte Bronte, and that is Lord of the Rings. This is a huge ass bind up of the entire trilogy, and I've read the first one of these, The Fellowship of the Ring, and I got like not even a quarter of the way through the Two Towers and was like, I gotta go, I can't do this. But now that I'm a little older, I have a little bit more patience, hopefully, I'd like to give this another try because I do like fantasy, and so many things that I love are based off of Lord of the Rings, so I think this would just be a fun one to try. It would be cool to read the whole trilogy next year because I do just have it as one book, so it's like I don't even have to get other books, but I'm not gonna put that much pressure on myself. Like, if I could read the first one and I like it, then maybe I can read the second one, but it would just be cool to read at least one of these in 2020. Last but not least is Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I watched the show earlier this year. I didn't watch all of it. I marathoned the first 6 seasons over the course of like maybe 2.5 months, and I loved it. I haven't watched the 7th or 8th season. People have told me like, oh, don't, just let it live perfect in your mind without the end, and I'm like, okay. So I'd like to read this book. I actually borrowed borrowed this book from my high school boyfriend. He's never gonna get this back, so this is mine now. And I'd like to read it because it's just been on my shelves for like 6 years, and I love little books like this. I love little mass market paperbacks, so this is gonna be really fun to read. And I think already knowing about the characters and knowing a little bit about the story will help me get through this, because I know that a lot of people have said that it's a bit daunting. So yes, very excited for this. That's like the 5 books I want to read in, like 5 just generally books that I'd like to read in 2020. I have a couple other like goals that I want to mention. One thing for me in my life is that I'd like to learn how to speak French, or maybe learn a little bit about how to read French so I can like read classics that I'm interested in the original language. And I started a couple weeks ago, and I was doing it like every day for 2 weeks, but it just fell off. And I'd like in the next year to be a bit more consistent with trying to learn French, or trying to learn how to read French, because I think that would be really freaking cool. It would be really cool. And the other thing is that I'd like to reread Jane Eyre. And as I just said, Jane Eyre is my favorite book in the entire world. And I haven't read it since high school. Like, it's been like 5 years since I've read Jane Eyre. I'm not to say that I've never like picked it up. I'm a rereader in the way that I like to pick up my books and reread my favorite scenes. So I've reread the end 100 pages of Jane Eyre, like, or the end 50 pages, so many times. Couldn't even tell you. But basically, oh no! This is my copy of Jane Eyre. Okay, Marcy, I need a mourn. The first page just fell off. This isn't even the first page. This is like the 4th page. The 3rd page. Anyway, Marcy, I'm having a tragic moment. Stop playing with your toy. She has a Subaru. Anyway, this is my copy of Jane Eyre. I took it from my 7th grade English classroom, and it was already like almost missing the cover at that point. And I've read it so many times that it is just disintegrating. As you can see, I can't even touch it, or else the pages fall off. And this is the copy that I read the first time. You might have noticed, I like little tiny books that fit in my hands, my little tiny hands. And this is just like the perfect little copy. It's only like, it's not even 500 pages. Like, it's 400 something pages. And I have a couple other copies. But they're freaking enormous. They're huge. And I don't like holding them. And they're not like floppy and soft. And I just, like, this was literally a gift for my birthday in high school. I've barely cracked this open. Like, bless you. I've like opened it like twice. This I bought on Book Outlet a couple months ago because I was under the impression that it would be a cute little paperback like this. I have been bamboozled, and so I'm always just gonna have to like I'll have to go to like thrift stores and find my own copies. I swear to God, get your nose out of that bag, Marcy. I'm gonna have to like go to secondhand stores to like find in person my own like nice little used copy mass market paperback of Jane Eyre, because I'll read this. I'm gonna read this. This is the copy I'm gonna read this year. But boy, this shit's like 570 pages. This isn't abridged. This isn't the abridged version. So how did it, I just have a lot of questions. And that is going to be the end of my 2020 reading goals and resolutions. It's been a good time. I'm sorry that Marcy here has been such an interruption, but she loves attention, so she's probably not mad about it. Anyway, I will see you guys another time. Bye.